Alright, trying to clear up some common misconceptions and misinformation about Dragon Invasion here. So why don't we start out with the biggest source of misinformation of them all, the developers of the game. If you're lucky, they won't completely fuck up a translation. They usually do, sometimes they don't. If you're really lucky, they'll actually translate it in a standardized way and use the same translated term to refer to the same thing in all instances, but that almost never happens. And in the rare cases when it does, the shit's outdated. So let's take a look at how some of these abilities allegedly work. This one, as your Dragon King, summons a little dragon. Every 30 seconds, it will cast Enduring Defense every 30 seconds, increasing units damage reduction and dodge for itself and the dragon for 180 seconds. So we'll see. Some of that's not true, some of it I'm not sure. This next one here, every 45 seconds, does a bunch of damage, silences everyone for 10 seconds. And then this last ability actually includes a couple different things. One is that percentage hit point damage from heroes and machines is not supposed to work. Units do the attack times 10. Sometimes that's true, sometimes it's not. But there at the bottom, the last line, as a Dragon's King, defense reduction resistance is greatly increased. Unless you work on translation for the game, odds are if you're watching this video, you speak English. Greatly obviously is a subjective term. So, if defense reduction only has half the effect, only has, 1% of the effect, 2% of the effect, that would technically be true. So we'll go ahead and check here to see how much defense reduction actually works on the dragon, or how greatly reduced it is. Simple test, Dendroid's 5-star woke. Bone Dragon is 3-star woke. Both have abilities at that tier that reduce defense. I'm just showing here that they're both turned off. But this time, Marksman's just going to put some damage on them to make it, because if it is really greatly reduced, then we want to be able to see, the small difference that it makes. And so you can see the Bone Dragon cast Dark Prohibition. That's his crushing blow, but it's set to silence from the Awakened, so he does cast that. Several seconds before we take our score, the frame it ticks to 128. It's 11.47 million damage. So now I'll run it exactly the same, except for you can see Crushing Roll here now does 30% defense reduction. And we'll watch to see, make sure that gets cast. And then also when the Dendroid's being hit, it also does another 30%. And the Dendroid's being hit, he's in front. That's what's applying the slow for double strikes. Without being 5-star Awakened, Dendroid does not apply constant slow. He does now because he's being hit constantly, and that would be applying the 30% defense reduction constantly as well. Debilitating Strike here is what Crushing Blow with the 30% is called, and that's up for 7 seconds. And it's 11.48 million this time. To be honest, I was expecting 0 effect, and that might in fact be 0 effect. The game lots of times will round numbers for display, but keep the actual unrounded number in its formula. Makes some math confusing sometimes. Or maybe my phone wasn't running the game at maximum frame rates, or maybe it did a little bit of an effect. So just check. I did the essentially the exact same test in Training Grounds here, and got a significant difference. Had it had the same effect, it would have brought our score up to 13.55 million. So defense reduction essentially has no value, maybe up to 0.5%, and that's just 0.5% of the difference, which was only 18%. So for all intents and purposes, it's 0. So how did everybody think it did have an effect for so long? Well, for starters, the units that do it, Bone Dragon has the defense reduction on his 3rd-star Awakening, does a ton of DRR. Manticore has a lot of defense reduction from his 3-star Awakening. Just his base has it, but he also does a lot of DRR. The Dendroid here that everyone's been using to slow, and talking about it for months, telling me, oh, you gotta get the Dendroid woke so you can get rid of the Ice Elemental. Well, any improvement they were seeing was just a result of the constant slow for proccing double strikes, plus the fact that Gelu scales so well from everything that you see constant improvement in Dragon Invasion with his meta. And that's, I think, still causing confusion in some other areas we're going to cover. But for now, just defense reduction. Be aware it has no effect. That's the units I listed. All are useful for their own reasons, especially Bone Dragon and Manticore. Manticore does not need to be woke past 1st star, though, to get maximum DI effectiveness, that means. And also the offensive potion talent unit. the penetration there, that's defense reduction as well. So now that we know defense reduction has no effect on DI, Dendroid buffs the attack of units nearby him, which are melee units and not doing any significant damage. The reason some people still say that he's better is that they think he has constant slow uptime, and Ice Elemental doesn't, or doesn't every time. And there may be some truth to that. I did some testing. I was going to include that testing right here in the middle of this, but I was just going too slow. Ha ha ha. But seriously, it is going to get to be pretty long if I keep adding in everything that people mistakenly believe about DI or don't understand, and myself included. I had to change up the test a little bit. It's just too much stuff. I put it in here. I'd have to fast forward it so quick you wouldn't see what's going on, and no one wants to watch, a 20-minute math lesson. I don't know. Maybe they do. I don't want to fucking make one. Certainly not all at once, anyway. So you can see in the bottom left here, I'm running Awaken test. I'm on the fourth one. So far, I've been using the top right awakening and the bottom left awakening. Now, generally, I would not be using my whole team and casting buffs and all that stuff. That's way too much RNG for testing, as you know if you've seen any of my other videos. However, I've been using the awakens that I've been using for a long time, and I figured I should test them because it sounds like the consensus is people like different ones than I've been using. And the bottom left one not only synergizes with Frenzy, it only works with Frenzy. So I have to buff. I did the bottom left and the top right 4 times. Scores are in the bottom left. Now I'm doing bottom left, top left. So the top two, this is the top right. It's the one that we just ran 4 times while I was blabbing. Increases units damage by 10% and gives crit damage 2% for every other ranged unit on the field, friendly ranged unit. I believe this is one that most people use. Units damage is great anywhere, especially DI. 1 percentage point of units damage is essentially equal to 1 percentage point of DRR, except for DRR affects everybody attacking the target. Already here, though, on the top left one, I got a better score. And there is quite a bit more variation because I'm casting spells and stuff than when I'm doing regular testing. So that just goes to show how much scores can fluctuate. So this top left one increases crit damage by 15%, and then another 3% for every friendly ranged unit. I don't know exactly how much crit damage equates into actual damage, same for units damage. But what I do know is that I crit constantly in DI. Gaelu gives crit bonus to archers. I got POA on. Elves and marksmen both have naturally high crit. And I'm using precision constantly, which increases your chance to crit by 100%. So I have been using the top left one, but here, look at the second score was in the range of the first test. So it could go either way. You should test for yourself, like I said. I don't think either one will give you a bad score. Which one is better for different people depends partially on your comp. The one on the left does give 3% crit damage per ranged as opposed to 2. So if you bring Pegasus, I'm obviously bringing Marksman. Or maybe Storm Elemental might be worth bringing here soon when he gets 5-star Awakened. I'll be testing that. Then that might lend more weight to the left. Like I said, that's what I have been using, but I'm testing them all here. Now, as for the bottom ones, this one seems like a real no-brainer, right? When receiving the bonuses of Frenzy, increases units damage by 20% for 5 seconds. Now, only one hero has the spell Frenzy. It's Gaelu, who we're using, and who also turns elves into sharpshooters. He's designed specifically to work with them, and this Awaken is designed specifically to work with his ultimate no one else has that we're casting on every cooldown in DI. So, obviously that's the one I've been testing. I've done 4 with that in the top right, and now I'm doing the 4th with that in the top left. You cast Frenzy 4 times. That's 20 seconds of 20% units damage. That's pretty significant. However, learned anything from this game, it's that you probably shouldn't just assume. So to cover all our bases, the bottom right, it increases the duration of rain of arrows by 1.5 seconds. Now, obviously, there may be situations where you're using your elves, but you're not using Gaelu. You can't Frenzy without Gaelu. You obviously wouldn't want to use the other one if you like running Gem or something like that. For these 8 1-minute runs I just did, though, we used the bottom left in all of them. The top right did not do as well as the top left on average. They both had a range of over 11 million. And I made a note of that here on purpose to show, that's quite a bit. Out of 200 million, 240 we were doing, that's 3-4% variation. So that's important to note. And the reason I noted that is because it's another way for people to mistakenly attribute a causation where there's just correlation. I mean, you could switch something and then your runs 4 or 5% off, and you're like, oh, that sucks, or that's awesome. But really, it was just, who knows, maybe. That's what we're trying to get to the bottom of. And sometimes you might be surprised. I just used the bottom right on the test and got 240 million, which isn't the best score we got, but it's higher than the average for either of the other ones. Even though I'm using Galo and Frenzy. So I should never assume or take anything for granted. Or you'll end up thinking your defense reduction is working wonders, or that the dragon leveling up increases your score, which it does not, and I'm working on that too. That'll be with the slow video. There's a lot of misconceptions. Anyway, here we're doing both the left again. I'm running just the last couple tests. If you could see there, it's 8:40. So I got 19 minutes. It just switched to 8:41. I got 19 minutes to do my actual runs. So both the left did not do as well as the top left, bottom right. And I know I did 2 of these combinations just 4 times each, about an hour before this. But I just wanted to do one last test of everything before I did my runs. And I actually run out of time. I don't get to do the 4th combination. But you know what? I decided to go with the Rain of Arrows buff for my actual run because I've been kind of fucking with y'all. That's what I've been using all along. 500% attack speed. Its regular duration is only 2.9 seconds. So an extra 1.5 seconds is pretty big. Again, testing all the combinations, they all seem to be, in the same area. So depending on your stats and your comp and your preference, of all the tests I just ran, the best combination that we got, or the best score anyway, was bottom left, top left at 144 million and change. I actually topped that here in this run, which I am going to let play out. And the reason I'm going to do that, well, there's a number of reasons. First of all, we got to count them little dragons yet and see if they're 30 seconds apart like they said. Also, I think we can see a number of things by showing the damage divided up into intervals. I have it divided into 5-second intervals. And you can see counting up on the side there. Because a lot of people are maybe a little dismissive about, say, using attack speed emblems for Manticore and Nightmare buffs, or especially for like second sets or possibly third sets of Darkness Enlightenment emblems. It's like, if you already have them on one 9-man unit, why bring a second set? I'm running 2 9-mans, the Black Knights and the Ice Elementals with them. And that might be changing soon. The new Storm Elemental Awakening and the Druid Awakening both have some potential here. And Black Knight's definitely going to get replaced here soon. The 30% DRR he does with Lord Hearts Global actually isn't that much of a benefit, though. Most of it's from the second set of Darkness Eternal emblems, which doesn't increase the stacks, it increases the speed in which it stacks. And, just a couple seconds difference in how quick those stacks get up can make a world of difference. The effect of the silences. Everybody knows that you do more damage in the beginning of the fight than at the end of the fight. A lot of people used to say that was because of the crit on the POA emblems. It's not really true, but it is very small sections of the fight time-wise where you're doing the majority of your damage. So a few seconds of getting those stacks up earlier, it cannot be understated how helpful that is. Also, I didn't have time, but next time I'm going to do a run like this and track at intervals the damage per second, or per 5 seconds I'm doing, and without casting any buffs. And then we can determine whether or not maybe we might want to delay some buffs. I have not been doing that, but I learned something by dividing this right here. The reason I was casting everything right away is so after the last silence, when they cast Fear, the poison from the Manticore, which is defense reduction, which I thought maybe mattered, or any other unit spells, Unicorn's Blind. Unicorn I might replace Black Knight with, actually. I got to test them with the DE. But they all come up after the end of a silence. They cast them, and I could line the last frenzy up with that. But the damage here at the last frenzy isn't very significant at all. But broke 300. So I knew those little dragons weren't spawning every 30 seconds because that would mean like 2 of them. Looks like they're every 15 seconds, and it also seems like they're casting Enduring Defense as they spawn. Like no matter how quick I kill them, it doesn't stop it. I'm not sure how to test the effect of that. I've just been killing them as quick as possible and hoping it helps. So here's the 5-second intervals of damage. You can see how quickly that damage goes up. Look, you see there, look at, we did about 154 and 134, we did about half our damage. And you can see the green text is when it's going up and red is when it's going down. So you can see it drops significantly after each silence, and you can see it gets lowest after the silence is over. The blue bars are the silence duration. And it certainly drops, it starts dropping at the beginning of the silence, but not a whole lot because the stacks are still up. That's another thing I've heard people question, is whether the silences clear the stacks. And this is a very clear record of that, because they don't actually clear the stacks, they just stop them from being reapplied. So when the cooldown's up, they end. And then have to be reapplied after. Damage, by far the lowest damage you do is after the period after the silence. So every little bit of attack speed on Manticore, Nightmare, and anyone with DE matters a lot, as does a second set of DE emblems. Now, as to whether it's worth it for you to score high in DI, that's another question, but you need the emblems if you do. Not only do you need the emblems, you need somebody who can apply them quickly, so that's what really puts a damper on one-man units here, and why Dendroid just really isn't worth it. Although he is not completely worthless, he may have a slight advantage. I'll get the video up on the slow testing, and these are boring as fuck. I'm going to put up a fun video. Not a real fun one, because, I promised the ladies I won't, and don't want all the fellas getting too jealous. It's bad enough getting constantly showing up on them PvE boards, so... Anyway, thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any feedback. It's always welcome. Some of y'all hit me up with questions on Discord. I'm happy to help when I can, when I get the time. And remember, always question everything. Don't let anyone tell you don't have enough power to do something, and yourself included. Have happy holidays, all that.